When people think of influential countries in Africa, Algeria rarely comes to mind. It has no global brands, no giant technology companies, and little international attention. Yet, behind the scenes, Algeria quietly possesses something many countries desperately want: energy, geography, and influence. It is the largest country in Africa, a major supplier of natural gas, and a bridge between Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Which raises an intriguing question: why does one of Africa's most important countries remain so overlooked? Because sometimes the countries nobody talk about are the countries everyone depends on. Size alone doesn't create power, but it creates possibilities. Algeria covers more than 2.3 million square kilometers, making it the largest country in Africa. Its territory stretches from the Mediterranean Sea deep into the Sahara Desert. This gives Algeria something few countries possesses: access to two completely different worlds: Europe to the north, Sub-Sahara Africa to the south. And throughout history, crossroads have always mattered. Most people associate energy with Russia or the Gulf states, but Algeria quietly ranks among the world's most important natural gas exporters. Pipelines connect Algeria directly to Europe, especially Spain, Italy, and other Mediterranean nations. And after the Russia Ukraine war disrupted energy markets, Algeria's importance suddenly increased because geography cannot be sanctioned and Europe needed alternatives. What have been overlooked for decades suddenly became strategically valuable. History has a habit of rediscovering old partners. Algeria's modern identity was shaped by one of the bloodiest independence struggle of the 20th century. More than a century, France controlled Algeria, but after years of brutal conflict, Algeria gained independence in 1962. The war transformed the country and left a legacy that still influences Algerian politics today. Because nations born through struggle often value sovereignty above everything else, and Algeria is no exception. Most people look at deserts and see emptiness, but deserts often hide enormous wealth. Beneath Algeria's Sahara lies oil, natural gas, minerals, and untapped resources. Yet, deserts also create challenges. Infrastructure becomes expensive, population remains concentrated, and development becomes uneven. In a strange way, the same geography that creates wealth also limits it. During the Cold War, many countries chose sides. Algeria often chose independence. It became a leading voice in the non-aligned movement, and even today, Algeria prefers strategic autonomy, maintaining relations with Russia, China, Europe, and the United States. Without becoming completely dependent on any one power, this balancing act gives Algeria something valuable: flexibility. And in geopolitics, flexibility is power. Here's something many people miss: Africa is becoming increasingly important, and Algeria sits at the center of several emerging trends: Chinese investments, European energy needs, Russian influence, African integration, and growing trade routes. Suddenly, the Mediterranean is becoming strategically important once again, and Algeria sits right in the middle. History doesn't repeat, but geography does. Despite its strengths, Algeria faces serious problems: dependence on hydrocarbons, youth unemployment, economic diversification, and political reforms. Because resources can create wealth, but they can also create complacency. History is filled with countries that confused natural wealth with permanent success, and Algeria's future depends on avoiding that trap. Most people think power belongs to countries that dominate headlines, but headlines are temporary, geography is permanent, and Algeria possesses one of the most valuable combinations in geopolitics: resources, locations, and strategic independence, which explains why major powers constantly pay attention to Algeria, even when the rest of the world doesn't. So, Algeria's story isn't really about Algeria, it's about something much bigger: the hidden importance of geography. Because history repeatedly shows that countries don't need attention to possess influence. Sometimes the most important players are the quiet ones. And perhaps that's why one of Africa's least discussed nations matter far most than most people realize. Because power isn't always visible, sometimes power hides in plain sight.